In 1957, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers began digging what would eventually become the largest lake in the state of Georgia, Lake Lanier, whose beaches border 5 counties and whose shoreline is over 600 miles long. The North Georgian Lake is 60 miles outside of Atlanta and boasts a yearly head count of over 7 million people. Recreational activities such as boating, swimming, and fishing lure multitudes of lakegoers here every year, but there may be something in the water that prevents them from ever returning. I'm Micah, my co-host is Amanda, and you're listening to the Great American Urban Legend Podcast, where each week we dive into another urban legend found right here in these United States. This week we're turning our attention to the largest state east of the Mississippi, the Peach State, Georgia, and more specifically, Lake Lanier in northern Georgia. So we're on our second episode. Thank you all so much for tuning in and for engaging with us on Instagram and Facebook. I've had a lot of fun meeting and getting to know some of you, and I hope to get to know a ton more of you out there. Last I checked, we had over 60 downloads, and we had just hit 200 followers on Instagram. That is awesome, so thank you guys so much. What an awesome community we find ourselves a part of here. I had a blast doing our first episode, and I learned a lot as far as editing goes. And I think you've gotten a little more comfortable or confident in front of the mic too, right, Amanda?
Yes, now that I actually know how to use it.
Is your nose touching? Are you touching?
It's touching. Everyone should be able to hear me this week.
Good. All right. So what did you think of the first episode? I know that's not quite in your wheelhouse, but did you have fun?
Yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun.
Good.
I think that we all enjoy hearing about urban legends, and so just taking a few and kind of delving into them is really interesting, and it's kind of fun to entertain the thought that, you know, there are things that go bump in the night.
Yeah, totally. So how's your week been? I know we started school this week, yeah? Or kind of started school?
Yeah, we're easing back into homeschooling. Our girls had their first real day at their co-op yesterday, so that was a lot of fun. Just getting ready to get my hair done this afternoon, so... Nice.
You gonna do something fancy, something new?
No, I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, I think you should. You know, I'm always one for experimenting with my hairdos. Well, let's go ahead and get into it. So, Lake Lanier is a man-made lake that covers 59 square miles of water and 692 miles of shoreline. It was named after American poet Sidney Lanier and was formed after the damming of the Chattahoochee River, constructed for flood control and to supply water and water energy to the residents in and around the city of Atlanta. So, the Chattahoochee, you ever heard that? What are you laughing at?
I'm sorry, it's a funny name.
It is a funny name. But there's a song about the Chattahoochee River, and I guess that's taken off of the poem that Sidney Lanier wrote about the river. I just thought that was good. You ever heard that song?
No, not that I know. You want to sing it for us?
No. I actually don't know anything about it. I think I'm getting it mixed up with the what's that old patty cake rhyme? Down by the banks of the hanky panky. I'm thinking like
the hanky panky, the Chattahoochee.
Down by the banks of the Chattahoochee. I don't know. I'm getting that confused, but oh well. The lake has claimed over 675 lives in the 63 years that it has been around.
Wow.
Yeah. That's approximately 11 lives a year lost to this man-made monstrosity of a lake. Also, monstrosity is a good word. Did you catch that this covers 59 square miles of water?
Yeah, I guess I don't really know what that means.
It's a lot. 692 miles of shoreline.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's a lot. That thing's huge. Now, there are rumors and stories aplenty, and we'll get to those, but we need look no further than the very inception of Lake Lanier to see that this lake was bound for turbulent waters. Boo! Right? See what I did there?
Turbulent
waters. So in the 5 years that it took to dig and fill this bad boy, an area that was already cultivated, developed, and settled, the good old U.S. government displaced somewhere between 250 and 700 families and businesses. not to mention over 20 cemeteries and even whole towns such as Oscarville, Georgia, in their acquisition of over 50,000 acres at about $50 an acre. And it is reported that those families and business owners who did not sell were removed forcibly, their lands and businesses seized by the government.
So why were they trying to build this huge lake?
So apparently they were looking to use the resources of the Chattahoochee River to provide water energy and water to the surrounding area. So they dammed the river, and, well, where are they going to keep that water? They're going to keep the water in this area that was being lived in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically
That's crazy.
they dammed the river, and then they just flooded that whole 50,000 acres, and what turned into, 59 square miles of inhabited land.
Yeah.
Yeah, wild. A lot of these homes, businesses, roads, street signs, towns, and churches were left untouched and simply buried under the weight of 637 billion gallons of water, left to rot, rust, and decay forever.
So there's like a little ghost town at the bottom of this lake.
Straight up, a ghost town at the bottom of this lake. An entire landscape of abandoned civilization lays forever lost at the bottom of Lake Lanier, a motionless ghost town, eerie, silent, and empty, 160 feet below the surface. I looked up some pictures, and it is creepy. I mean, it's underwater. It's got that green, eerie, bunch of particles and whatever floating around, and seaweed. But there's like stop signs and streets. And there's a raceway, like a full setup, racetrack raceway, where they used to drag race cars. That is just underwater.
It's crazy.
It's kind of creepy. A local diver was quoted as saying, "You reach out into the dark and feel an arm or a leg, and it doesn't move."
Okay, how can they just bury all those bodies underwater?
Well, and the question is, where did the bodies come from?
Well, I thought it would be the cemeteries, right?
Right. That's got to be what it is, because they're obviously not just going to drown people.
Right.
They're not going to flood, people. So, yeah, it had to have been the cemeteries, which...
That just doesn't seem legal or sanitary.
Amanda, our government would never do anything illegal.
Or unsanitary.
Or unsanitary. Even as recently as last year, Lake Lanier has taken the lives of both visitors to her shores and native residents alike, strong swimmers, and even teens and children. Boat accidents, cars slipping and sliding off of the Lanier Bridge into the murky waters below, only to be found decades later or not at all, and drownings, oftentimes in still shallow waters, all lend credence to the tales of a cursed lake. And how about the random rogue waves that seem to materialize out of nowhere, capsizing boats or other smaller seacraft before disappearing beneath the calm surface? Or the drowning survivors who swear that they felt slimy, skeletal hands gripping them and pulling them down, down, down into the darkness? Is the lake haunted by the spectral memories of forgotten lives washed away by time and progress? Were the cemeteries and the subsequent graves improperly disinterred and relocated, disturbing the eternal rest of their occupants?
See, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Burying those cemeteries under the lake is not smart.
Yeah, and I mean, who knows? They could have easily just said, "Yeah, we moved them all," and how would you know? Crazy. So yes, perhaps, but I think that it is all a bit more simple than that. From what I could find, there were no deaths from the actual building of the lake or dam, and as far as I can tell, everything that could be moved and relocated was, including the cemeteries and graves. That's not to say that there weren't any deaths and that there wasn't any carelessness in moving all the graves and bodies, just none that I could find. I think that the legend of this cursed lake stems from one fateful night in 1958 when two young girlfriends raced out of a filling station without paying, likely laughing at their seemingly innocent hijinks, and headed down Donsville Highway across Lanier Bridge, having just left a local dive called the Three Gables just outside of Gainesville, Georgia. Lanier Bridge to this day has numerous reports of a handless woman in blue wandering the lonely stretch, seemingly looking for something, most likely her hands, which are nowhere to be found. She continues to search up and down the length of the bridge that spans Lanier Lake every night, and every night she is left wanting. Hundreds of local passersby claimed that this phantom fatale was none other than Delia Parker. Hundreds of local passersby claimed that this phantom fatale was none other than Delia Parker Young, a young woman who went missing one night after the vehicle she was in careened off the side of Lanier Bridge. Some even say that they recognize her face and could identify her as such.
I think you would pronounce her name Delia Parker Young, not Delia.
Delia,
because, yeah, there used to be this clothing catalog that I got as a teenager called Delia's.
Really?
And that's exactly how it's spelled. So I'm going to go with that. Delia Parker Young.
Okay, we'll go with that. So one fateful night in 1958, Susie Roberts had picked up her friend Delia Parker Young in her 1954 blue Ford sedan for a girls' night out, and Delia was ready to paint the town red, having just purchased an eye-catching blue dress.
Ooh.
Right? They were seen leaving the Three Gables and were traced to a filling station where they had left without paying, but the trail grows cold there, except for a set of fresh skid marks that led off the bridge into the dark, murky waters of Lake Lanier far below. And the trail would remain cold for another 18 months until a body was discovered floating under the bridge by a local fisherman. The body was that of a young woman. It could not be identified by this point, though it did have a few haunting attributes. The fisherman was reported to have stated that the body was missing 2 toes on her left foot and that both her hands were missing as well.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So that could be how, like, long ago, if you stole, didn't you get your hands cut off?
I mean, yeah, like, I don't think they ever did that in the States.
Well, and the other girls were stealing too. Stealing, hands cut off. There's a connection there.
You just blew my mind. We might have to have a part 2.
I don't know about the toes though. Maybe because she ran. You can't run with missing toes.
Oh man, you're hosting the next one. Your ideas are too good. So, unable to identify the body, the authorities buried it in a local cemetery in an unmarked grave. And though for a time it seemed to be a rite of passage for the local high schoolers to go and visit the nameless, lonely woman, she was eventually forgotten, even though everyone in Dawsonville assumed that it was the body of either Susie or Delia laying in that tomb. Now let's fast forward for a moment, some 30 years into the future, to 1990, when construction on the bridge led to a shocking discovery. Trapped beneath the bridge among the desolate and flooded city ruins below was a blue 1954 Ford sedan with a severely bloated and decayed female body still in the driver's seat. Among the articles found within were remnants of clothing, some jewelry, and a purse. The authorities were able to identify the body as that of the missing Susie Roberts. For 30 years, Susie Roberts' body was the sole resident of an underwater civilization long ago left behind, and now she was found. With Susie identified, the authorities pieced together certain specific items found in the car to identify the body of the woman missing the toes and the hands, found 32 years earlier as Delia Parker Young. The unmarked grave was given a headstone for Miss Young, and she and Miss Roberts were finally and properly laid to rest. But that does not seem to have stopped Delia from roaming the bridge late at night, searching for
her missing hands.
Or for Susie, or for her way home.
Missing hands.
Probably so. I mean,
and toes.
If I was missing my friend, my way home, or my hands, I'd probably be searching for my hands first. We'll never know for sure, but a confused and frightened spirit makes for dangerous waters, to be sure. Though the memory and even the legend of Delia and Susie's tragic end was all but forgotten as the years passed, it seemed that fate would not allow it to be so. This haunting and Delia's continuous searching suggests to be what parapsychologists call residual haunting, where the appearance of the ghost or spirit seems to be trapped in a loop or a recording, destined to replay the last tragic living moments over and over and over again as the emotions and energies are woven together with and to a specific place.
Kind of like, and I'm not a Star Wars nerd, but kind of like
whoa,
Star
what
Wars,
if, no
where
offense.
Princess Leia's recording keeps playing over and over.
The heck are you talking about?
Her recording, it played out of the robot in a loop.
But that wasn't her spirit. That was just a...
No, but wouldn't that be kind of like what the spirit is doing? Like you said it was trapped in a loop or a recording.
Okay, yeah, all right. I'll give it to you.
No, forget it.
No.
I don't know anything about Star Wars.
No, let's see. Emotions and energies are woven together with and to a specific place, just like Princess Leia's recording in R2-D2's chip set video. As time went on, the memory faded, and so too did Delia's ghost or residual haunting. But for some reason, fate decided that these girls were not to be forgotten so easily, and intervened in such a way as to exhume the mud-logged, rusty 1954 blue Ford sedan, and within it, the body of Susie Roberts in 1990. Now, they say you can't stand in the way of progress, but progress at what cost? There is no denying that the construction of Lake Lanier was and continues to be a huge resource to the state of Georgia. Not only did the damming of the Chattahoochee create the state's largest lake, which hosts dozens and dozens of parks, hundreds of campgrounds and campsites, multiple marinas and lakefront restaurants, and more, guaranteeing billions in revenue and hydroelectricity. And it has been successful in its flood control as well. But with all of this benefit, it's easy to forget the cost. Hundreds of families, businesses, towns, lives were uprooted, eliminated, or forgotten. Tragedy and death plague the waters of Lake Lanier and have for 60 plus years. Is it haunted? Is it cursed? You're going to have to decide that for yourself. But with everything that I've presented to you this evening, along with a Twitter hashtag of hashtag Lake Lanier that is strewn with cryptic warnings and cautions, I know where I'd place my bet. So, what do you think?
I mean, I love the story. I think it's super interesting.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of the the lady in white, the spectral,
right.
the woman on the bridge, that kind of thing. And this one I thought was very interesting because I started looking into the curse of Lake Lanier, and it led me down the course of the angry spirits in the graves, or the maybe even just the spectral memories of the families and farmers whose land was taken, that kind of thing. But that really seemed to hit a dead end, and you really couldn't tie it too much of anything of the happenings. Then I came across the story of the Lady of the Lake, as she is called, which that harkens back to Arthurian legend of the Lady in the Lake, the Sword Excalibur, all that, which I just love. So anything that would tie into that, it instantly got my attention. So Lady in the Lake, spectral woman on the bridge. In this instance, the Lady in White is a lady in blue. But it all makes perfect sense.
Yeah. I have to admit, when I heard we were doing a lake, I really thought maybe this was going to be a Nessie.
Yes,
I love a good Nessie tale.
I do, and I'm looking for a good urban legend here in the States.
I found one.
Did you? What is
Years
it?
ago, me and my sister watched this documentary on Lake Champlain, and his name is like Champy or Champy, or I don't know.
Lake Champlain?
No, Champlain.
Champlain?
Yeah.
What kind of lake is that?
I don't know. We
Where
watched
is it?
a YouTube, or not YouTube, Netflix documentary on it.
Huh.
I think it's up north.
Okay. Well, we'll definitely do that one then. 'Cause, yeah, I like a good Nessie tale too.
Yeah, but no. So okay. So my question is there any relation to the cursed town underwater and Delia?
Not that I could find. And the towns underwater aren't necessarily cursed. They were just left and forgotten.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I couldn't really find. Everyone says, the lake is known to be cursed, and its death rate is surprisingly high. But I couldn't find any correlation between the dam, the flooding, the creation of the lake, what was lost in the making of and the filling of the lake. I couldn't find any relation there. So I think that's just coincidence. But when you go and you find the tragic tale of Delia, and I think you called her Delia.
And Susie.
Yeah, but of Delia and Susie, then you find where we might have a curse on our hands.
Okay.
And we're going to have to do some investigation. We might do a part 2 here to find out if maybe she lost her hands because she stole. I never even put that together.
So they don't know why they ended up in the lake. Is that right?
Right. They just found fresh skid marks heading off the bridge right after they had left the filling station.
And so they don't know why Delia was found. There was like no leads as to who might have cut off her hands and her toes.
No, unless maybe it was Champy, and Champy just ate her hands and her toes.
Wrong lake, Micah.
Yeah, I guess Georgia is north, but it is in northern Georgia. I don't know. We'll have to do some research. We'll get back to you on that. Also, when I found out we were going to do a lake, I was a little nervous because of my
fear of water.
Because of my natural fear of water, which I mean, you know, I love swimming. I love lakes. I'm a good swimmer, but I have this innate, or what I thought was innate, fear of water. Come to find out that I.
Or could be the fact that you almost drowned as a child in a lake.
Right. Yeah. Which is where I think that fear comes from. I never knew that until a couple years ago when I told my dad. I just have this weird, strange, you know, sensation in the back of my mind every time we're in a lake or we're in a large body of water where I just, you know, I'll swim. I won't let it affect me, but I'm just guaranteed that I'm going to drown. I don't know why. But it could have something to do with the fact that I almost drowned when I was 2 in a lake.
And that's why we will never go on a cruise.
Correct.
Because, I mean, have you seen Titanic?
Have you seen Titanic? No, I will never go on a cruise, period. Amanda wants me to go on a cruise sometime, but I will not. Not until they make a Titanic 2 where the Titanic doesn't sink. Then we'll talk. Anyways, I think that about wraps it up. Anything else you wanted to add to that?
Nope.
Yeah, it was good. It was a good legend. I'm glad we're able to present these kind of stories to folks that may not have heard it before. So thank you all for listening. You guys are awesome. We can't wait to interact with you and get to know you more and more throughout the coming weeks and months. If you happen to know of an urban legend or a campfire tale that you'd like us to get more information on and present on our podcast, we'd love to do that. So let us know. Be on the lookout for a super fun giveaway we have coming up real soon. And make sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter to keep up with everything that we're doing here at the Great American Urban Legend Podcast. Until next time, I'm Amanda.
Okay, that is so great.
I'm
Amanda.
And I'm Micah. And this has been the Great American Urban Legend. Amanda, our government. Yeah.